I'm Deanna Butters. I'm the director of the Spend a Day program. Um, and it is, besides being an honor, Spend a Day is, I think, a very special thing that we have here outside of other daycares. We have true professionals, a true system, and true fun. Like, I mean, besides all the hard work that it takes to, from the beginning of having a client tour to the time that we get them, we're going through family situations, we're going through maybe linking them with other services, we're going through options after, Spend a Day is not appropriate, looking for funding for them, transportation, anything that makes that process for them a little bit easier to be able to get that person here and give them that break. The purpose of the program was to allow these seniors to have an independent program to come out to that connects also with the home care and the Meals on Wheels. I feel like it's a great triangle of the continuum of care. We have the home piece, we have the food piece, now we have the independence of coming out to a place that is specifically designed just for you. And that is how we present it to the families when they come in. We don't go based on anyone's deficits. We can't work with that. So we are very good at pulling out things that will help this person grow once they get into the program, or if it is just to kind of maintain them where they are to help the family find their next route. It's a good holding pattern, but it also is a really good, all the stuff that we repeat, like the socialization, the stimulation of these guys, being able to get out of their homes and come into an environment where people in this environment are just like them. So they're not in those situations where outside of here, that it's not designed for them. I can keep going, I'm sorry. But it is a nice full day. They are from 9:30 to 3:30, which are the true program hours. They're, from the moment they come in, they're stimulated. They have breakfast, they're talking to their friends. We work on cognition, physical ailments, so much to the fact that they don't even know what their deficits are at this point. They're just communicating. Lunch, we exercise again, the routine that we put in place for them, the families now kind of try to transition that into the home. So I think it's a really good process for the families to go through too, because they learn a lot about how to deal with what, this person is, the changes that they're going through. I mean, it's not easy. We have days where, families are coming in and you can see exactly what's going on. A great example this morning, we have a new client that started, and he came to us from the VA, really nice guy, has trouble putting his stuff together. He lives in a senior building, dresses himself, he gets himself ready, but he's so anxious this morning that he forgot to put a shirt on. So he just has his jacket on. And his niece obviously was anxious as well and did not have a good morning with him. So now he's here, his first day, he doesn't know anyone, he's stressed, and it takes about 35 minutes to get that person through that so that they can even start their day. This happens every day. So we're dealing with real issues with these guys from the moment they walk in. And I feel that, this morning was a perfect example, actually. Just where, he may look like he can walk into this building and say, hey guys, how you doing? And have that conversation, but he can't put it together. So he's dealing with that frustration. But again, he's in the right place, because the minute he walked in, for me, it's so great to watch somebody walk in and then see how the staff comes together and helps him put his day together. They don't know him, but it looks like they know him from the day he walks in. So that's really what I think the bonus is for the families as well, because that's how we treat them.
I just want to add that they do have independent care plans that are created, and that we are accredited by the Department of Health as well.
Deficiency-free last survey, I just want to say that.
Yes, excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you, Deanna.
Deanna, could I just ask, how many years has the Spend a Day program been in existence? Do you know that? off the
It's
top of your-
75.
Yeah, I was gonna give you like the actual years. When I got here, it was the 35th birthday, so it's
Right, yeah.
39, 40
But
years.
In the same
Yeah.
birthday.
It's easy, right?
Right around that, yes.
Yeah. On average, how many people do you have here on a given day?
32, 35.
And are there people who are here certain days a week?
Yes. They, most of our clients come multiple days. We like to recommend 2 days because we have so many clients on different days that it's good that they get to see a different environment and different folks so that we see which group they're going to mix with. But most of our clients are here 2 to 3 days. We have a lot at 5 days.
And what is the cost per day?
$95.
Yeah, right, 95, that's the
Excuse me, I'm Hugh Andrade. On the committee, I'm not a member of the SAGE board. There's still a lot about SAGE I don't know. So some of my questions may sound kind of naive.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
Those are good questions.
I-
We all need
Good question.
Yeah, no.
Actually,
And we take them for granted.
I want to ask one more question, yeah, related to the cost. Just, and it may get into that, but $95 a day is the cost per person.
Right.
Of that group of 32 to 35, what percentage of them actually are full-pay patients, and what
Good
percentage are supplemented by other sources?
Right now, we're going at a 51, 49 percentage or
Right.
55, 45. It depends. It fluctuates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which way?
55 funded, 45 private.
Oh,
Sorry.
really?
Yeah.
We started the year, I think it was 60/40.
Yeah.
60, we're not paying full.
Right. 60 are funded in some way.
And the funding source is what?
They would be Union County funding, they would be Medicaid,
Yeah.
VA
benefits. We have
as well.
Alzheimer's respite program. We
Exactly.
have
Those are the Union County.
the DOH, Alzheimer's. There are options. If someone came in and said, "Hey, look, this is where we're at financially. We do needs assessments, so we know this person truly needs the help." There are some folks like this week. She's got $1.5 million worth in savings, and they're looking for funding. I'm like, that doesn't happen. We can't approve that. So we do, and we're really good at saying, "Hey, look, no, we can't do that." We have to manage all these funding sources to make sure we have enough to survive throughout the year. So we'll try to either have someone come in on 1 day funded and pay a private day, but they have to get that private day in first. But I see that ratio fluctuating throughout the year. It depends. Like earlier in the year, last year I think was a better number because we were coming off of a very good 2013, so we had that beef basically. But
Yeah, we had a difficult week.
terrible February, and then just society in general. Everybody is looking for a way to make their money stretch, and these folks are coming in with multiple situations. I mean, Kathy and all of us actually, we have to kind of navigate through all this other stuff to kind of help them figure out which is the best funding option. And if you use this, what are you going to have left over for a home care? Or, if you come in through Kathy, I could go on and on and on. I'm sorry.
But that just gives you an idea.
Right. Yeah.
If there are
Does that make
not
sense?
other resources you can find to provide funding, does SAGE offer any direct, absorb any cost for some people?
Yeah.
We often do that, sometimes temporarily until we can get them on a funding source, so
Right.
that they, especially for people who really need services immediately.
We also do have a discounted rate at $76, but we don't talk about it until we've exhausted all those other options, and then but again, it has to come with a regularly paid private day unless I know that you are not, like if you're coming in just above Medicaid, I know you need the funds. A lot of our families are, this area, while we think these folks have this type of, these assets, a lot of them are coming in dealing with medical bills that have piled up or or whatever, or trying to find resources to stay in their homes. So, by the time they get to us, it's like, what can we get? And while we want to work with them, the other part is that we have to try to keep ourselves open. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Before we go to you, Mary Louise.
Okay, we can start with volunteers. Sometimes people have,
Yeah, Meals on Wheels and Director of Volunteers, both,
yes.
right?
So we'll start with volunteers, but there's been some confusion because we use different numbers for how many volunteers we have. Individual volunteers in our database is about between 300 and 350. It kind of fluctuates. They are individuals who have signed up to help us. Most of our volunteers do Meals on Wheels or shopping. Then there's ship volunteers, spend a day, et cetera, et cetera. But especially with Meals on Wheels, we work with a lot of groups that work with adults with developmental disabilities, such as Our House, the Arc of Essex County, and there's about 5 or 6 other smaller ones. That's why we say we have about 600 volunteers who deliver Meals on Wheels, because those groups come with lots of people. If you ever want to come and see a fun site, come down to Meals on Wheels around 11:10 on a Tuesday, when there are about 35 Our House people ready to go out and volunteer. So for Meals on Wheels, we say that we have 600 volunteers. So we have those individual volunteers, and then we have people within groups that help us on a regular basis. So that's where we get the 600. And then there are community members who come in occasionally, maybe even once a year, people who come and entertain at Spend a Day, kids who make stuff for us, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops. So that's where we kind of stretch it to 1,000 when we're talking about numbers, which is always a confusing thing because people see different numbers. Our volunteers are the ears and the eyes out there in the community every day, especially with Meals on Wheels. So we look at, Sage here, but when you look at those volunteers that are out in the community, just this week we had somebody come back from Mountainside. Mrs. F had fallen. She knocked on the door. She could hear, "Help me, help me." She called 911. Police busted in. She waited until everything seemed stable. She moved on, came back, told me. They had already called the son. So it's a lot of that. It's really checking on people, not just for medical emergencies, but also, to just let us know that, so-and-so needs help with something. So-and-so is depressed because of whatever reason. So we really, it all gets funneled back into our little department, and then we reach out to the family, or tell the family about Spend a Day, or we might reach out to one of the social workers or the nurses. Nurses will go out if there's a, like a kind of an emergency and we're not really sure how somebody's doing. So it's volunteers, Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels is kind of confusing because we work with parts of 3 counties, so I don't have anything specifically written up on how Meals on Wheels works. I have a little fact sheet here. Last year we served 240 people, mainly in northern Union County, and then Milburn, Short Hills, and Chatham and Madison are our other 2 smaller segments. One of the most interesting statistics that I just, this is brand new, hot off the presses from last year, but 60% of the people who get Meals on Wheels report that they get visitors rarely to only 1 time a week, except for their Meals on Wheels delivery people. So yes, we're helping them with food, but I think the National Meals on Wheels Association of America is really, there are parts of the country where food is the most important thing. In this area, it's food, and there are about 25 people out in the community that really would be starving without us. But more than the food is that isolation and that visitor who comes once a week, and the volunteers who, really check on them. I know they're doing things that they never tell me out there. I know they're taking people to the doctor. I know they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, but they're doing them because they really have formed a strong bond with these folks. And then our shopping service, we actually shop. We just moved from Berkeley Heights to the ShopRite in Sterling. So we shop at the ShopRite in Sterling on Wednesdays and the Milburn ShopRite on Thursdays. We kind of divide the geographical area. We have 2 part-time shopping coordinators, so we shop for people who need shopping. We pick up their shopping list. Our clients range from somebody who's fairly independent and just can't handle the groceries anymore. Some of the older women never had a driver's license. And then about half of the people actually are a little bit less independent than that and might have a full-time live-in aide. We work with some home care clients who they got an aide and everything's set up nice and neat, but gee, how are they going to eat? So not only are we shopping for the client, but we're also shopping for their caregiver.
On the volunteers who do the shop, they're unpaid,
Correct.
so the person who needs that assistance doesn't pay for it.
The person that needs the assistance, there is actually a $12 fee. If they're in Union County and they can't afford that, we have about 7 or 8 clients right now on a Union County respite program, so they don't have to pay for it. And basically what we do is we see who's really in need, and we automatically put them on that program. We're lucky this year. We're not always lucky, but I believe that we had money throughout the year to pay for those people from Union County.
Do you have occasion to find that you have a shortage of volunteers?
Occasionally, but you need as many volunteers as you have clients. So right now the Lauren, who shops for people in Milburn, and she is a staff person, but she has volunteers. Her clients have just kind of dwindled down for the first time, so now she has too many volunteers. So we have a fine line of keeping the same amount. Now, interestingly, it costs us, Sage, as much to shop for 5 people a week as it costs for 17 people a week. Because it's one person meeting a group of volunteers at the store, and if we have 17 volunteers, it takes us maybe takes a half an hour longer to shop for 17 people as it does for 5. So we've been trying to get those numbers up. We have not been real successful. Same with Meals on Wheels; those numbers can go up too. So we need clients.
How many meals does the average volunteer deliver on a given day?
Our routes right now, most of them are about 8 or 9 people. It's a donation-based program. We do not look at anybody's we have to look at it to report to the government, but financial need is not a requirement of Meals on Wheels. You might need meals no matter where your finances fall. So that's one myth that a lot of people don't know. You are supposed to be over the age of 60. Do we have people under the age of 60? Yes, we do. I don't think any jury's going to hang me when I've got a 53-year-old client in Summit who had a heart transplant and is now in renal failure. I got to serve the man. There's no question.
The requirements, such as the age, come from where?
They come from the Older Americans Act from 1964. That's when they determined that people over the age of 60 were old.
That's a bummer.
That's a bummer.
Very young.
Doesn't make common sense to me that such an act would say, and you can't service somebody who's under 60.
Well, here's the deal. Union County, I'm very close to the executive director of Union County Meals on Wheels. She would be happy to serve people under the age of 60, but she needs the money.
Right.
So she needs the money from the disability people to serve them meals. That's where you run into. There are a lot of waiting lists right now. We don't have one, thank goodness. But Essex County, horrible waiting lists for people who need meals. So you can't serve somebody who's 50 and disabled if you've got a 93-year-old on a 2-year waiting list. I mean, it's crazy, but you need the money.
I'm sorry.
What other things do volunteers do? You talked about shopping and of course delivery of meals.
Shopping, delivering Meals on Wheels, everybody in the furniture repair workshop is,
Well, you spoke about taking people to doctor's visits.
That's not official.
Yeah,
that's knowledge.
We didn't hear
That's
that.
it, yeah.
We didn't hear that.
And so if someone calls and says, I need to go to the doctor, or I need to, a dear friend has died and I want to go to the funeral mass and I have no way to get there.
It's a major problem.
it's
Can we help them, or is that not in our
Yes, we can help them.
We are not covered to do that.
We don't
Oh,
do
no,
that.
oh, no, not like we're driving. We can give them resources.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
the
what,
person
that's
that
the
would
best.
give them the resources
Right.
to go
But it's
out
a
and
major
tell them.
problem, but that's
I
besides.
would love to do it.
But if I wanted to do that, I'd knocked on your front door and said, I've got some free time, I'd be happy to
Insurance.
Yeah.
do this. Just give me a call and I'll go
Well,
to the person's house.
There's liability issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yes.
liability insurance
Yeah.
You're
issues.
covered as a volunteer, but not as the driver, so that would be the difference.
Right?
That's a good question, I think, Hugh, because actually the fellow we spoke with yesterday, or the day before, was asked a question about programs. In conjunction with this campaign, are we contemplating adding programs to the services that we offer? And there's a lot of creative people over the years here who do that, who constantly are trying to think up new things for us to do as an organization. And I think that the Red Cross does the driving, and they've been doing it. They have their own vehicle.
Aren't they stopping?
No
No.
longer.
They're phasing that out.
They're out of business of transportation.
No
They're trying-
kidding.
trying.
That's like hot off the presses, just like her
Yes,
flyer.
Right,
Yeah.
hot off the
They're
press.
phasing it. They have actually discontinued helping us with Meals on Wheels
Yeah.
after a 45-year
Yeah,
relationship.
That's a big loss.
But their cars are getting old and
I
they're,
was just about to propose that we get in a competition with the Red Cross, but now we could be.
You'll
I
be
think
the only
they'd be
competitor in the
happy.
market.
Prior to all of this, I was speaking to the Red Cross, maybe we can figure out something, but that is the
That
hot
would be a
issue.
real loss.
It is the hot issue in
If
healthcare.
it's solely an insurance issue,
Yeah.
yeah. There
seems to
is,
me, well, doesn't matter what it seems to me. It's solely an insurance issue, what it would cost Sage to have that Sage insured.
Yes.
Sage would have to.
That's our
On
cost.
the other hand, if one thinks about it, you're a member of the congregation of a Grace Episcopal Church, and you say you need somebody to help you get to the funeral. I'm sure some member of the
Step right up.
congregation comes and picks you up.
yeah.
And duh.
Just for your information, I used to take people to doctor's appointments.
You did?
Oh, yeah, for many years I did, or if they were in therapy. But it reached a point, the legal aspect of it, and we were told that we couldn't. So as Mary Ann said, there are people out there who will assist, but they're not a part of Sage. I mean, they might be volunteers here, but they're not a part of
Right.
Sage, as far as transportation goes.
It is certainly something that came up, and the strategic plan is one of the number one programs that would benefit the community. In addition to just insurance, is monitoring every kind of going here, making sure that we also train the drivers. So there are a few other things, which all can happen.
Just depends on how much money.
You know, it's,
Get to work, guys.
I think you're just trying to fund the programs we have.
I tease it, I tease it.
Experts, they're.
Yes.
That's the next strategic plan.
What? That's the next
That's the next one.
Yeah, but it's something we've discussed. I mean, with the bus for Spending It.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of that right now,
About
actually.
making doctor's
Yeah.
appointments,
Yeah.
taking them
About
He's been in
this.
the insurance business
Shopping and
his whole
stuff.
entire life.
Connington?
Spon-
D's or T's? Oh, the D's.
Sponsor-
Yes.
Sponsor of the.
Yes, yes.
He and his
No.
wife Katie have been friends and Sage
He's here in
forever.
spirit.
They are very involved. He's, he's not, I don't think he's worked with anyone do you think?
He's in the Rotary, he's really involved in the Rotary.
He's very, very knowledgeable and has a lot of contacts, and I think if you were to call him
How about
and talk about this, he
help us
probably
get a
would
bus?
have a lot of resources that he could.
That would be fantastic, to start the process a little bit.
Yeah,
Just
well,
to
he's
start
the guy.
investigating,
He
but
and
that would
Jane,
be fantastic, great.
they may be out of town now, I'm not sure, but they'd be very happy to help.
That's great, thank you.
And they have been wonderful helpers here forever.
So we exhausted all the things, Vaughn?
Well, I just
They-
wanted
they
to
They
add
don't
one.
take people with your permission. They don't take people with your permission to the doctor.
Right, what I don't know, I don't
And they
know.
don't take people other places.
I
They
mean,
do
we-
deliver meals to them. They will shop for them.
But not with them.
Not with
I
them.
just wanna say that, 'cause a lot of
Yes,
people do
yes.
call and say, are you gonna take me to the grocery store? And we
Yes.
say, no, we need to get your list, but you can't shop with us for the same reason we can't
Get your list and your blank check.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty much.
So yeah, there's the furniture repair workshop, there's the SHIP volunteers, although Elise, coordinates them, they are under the umbrella of SAGE volunteers. Spend a Day has some volunteers, we have office people that help.
And you, I think I one time was told, if someone says, I need someone to repair something in my house, you will find somebody who will come do that.
They have
I
done it,
have
but it's not.
referrals, when people call like for transportation or they need repair works done in their home, I have a whole list of people out there that do that kind of work.
And, okay.
Or if a son calls from Singapore and wants somebody to take care of dad who's living all by
That's-
himself.
I really did get a phone call.
I get those all the time.
I mean, it happens all the time. I remember
Yeah.
that, sure.
He was in China.
Yeah.
He was in China, so of course we had the time difference, and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't think Sage wants me to call in China, so do you have an email address? Email back and forth? Yeah, and his mother lived at the senior building.
I got a call from Alaska the other day. I thought that was interesting. Her parents lived in Summit and she lived in Alaska.
Yeah.
I get
So
calls
you
like
get
that all the
calls.
time. A lot of my
I
clients.
just never
are down
called
in
Alaska
state
before.
or
The calls
Yeah.
can come from Florida, they can come
Hawaii,
from West
we've
Coast.
heard.
Yeah.
So Alaska was a fun one.
Elsewhere
Anywhere
around
in
the
the
world, right.
London.
Well, when you take this home, there's a good article about how all of us helped a man that his family was in England. And it started with Meals on Wheels, and then the social worker, and then myself. And it wound up, he had no power of attorney, had no legal documents, he had no family. And the long and short of it is that we all pitched in and did it, and his breath, and we got him back to England. I found people to fly him back to England, and he's in a home in England now, close to his family. But it was a lot of steps along the way.
It's quite an incredible
It was an
story.
incredible story.
Coordination and
Yeah.
Great story.
dedication.
Yeah.
And dedication that's brought us here so that you can take that and read that. So you
That was-
have
That could be
Bye-bye
worked into
money.
a presentation
Yes.
when you're talking to a potential donor.
Yes.
Right.
Something like that would be a very.
Yeah, I could give you all the details.
Yeah.
We could all sit with you if you're
Sure.
Yeah,
interested in that.
absolutely. And you can all take
And I have
that.
a
So you
ton
can
of
read
stories
so
like
it's
that.
a reading. Yes.
No, not
The
this
story of my life.
Any other questions for Mary Ann? Staff, want to give us a rundown?
Sure. I'm Stephanie Crash. I'm the Director of Community Relations, and one part of my job that you'd be interested in for this campaign, I guess, is I'm in charge of coordinating and organizing our educational programs and events that we have at Sage. So we have some regular programs that go on throughout the year, beginning with exercise classes. And so these programs are for people in the community, not the same people who are at Spend a Day. These are people who are driving themselves to Stage to take their exercise classes. So right now we offer chair yoga, Tai Chi, and then a Fun to Be Fit class, which is just a more regular exercise class. What's interesting about these classes is, well, a couple things is, sometimes the people do start out, as well and coming to the exercise classes, and sometimes they have transitioned to Spend a Day, as, things have happened. And the other nice thing about the classes is that they themselves have really formed a community amongst themselves, and once a month they have their own brown bag lunches where they have lunches and they bring in speakers, or one of the members of the class will speak about whatever, you know, their background is, and so it's become a really nice community, and we're even looking to offer more classes. I actually have to remember to bring a survey to see what other classes they'd be interested in. There are, of course, a lot of places in the community that do offer exercise classes for seniors, but it's like, you know, there can't be enough exercise, so it's nice. We also offer 2 monthly support groups, which I'm sure you'll talk about your support group, but I'm just going to say this. We have caregiver support groups. So one is an evening support group led by Ellen, and the other is a daytime support group led by Deanna. And that's she was trained by the Alzheimer's Association, so it's an Alzheimer's Association caregiver support group. So what's nice about that group is that a lot of the people who are there, not everybody, but a lot of them have their loved ones and spend a day, and then so we'll drop them off, and then once a month come here.
And again, they've become a little unit. They go out to lunch together. It's just a good bonding thing.
Right, so it's caregiver. And then throughout the year, we also offer about, I'd say like 15 to 20 other types of just educational programs for the community about a range of topics, from a lot about caregiving we often have. So we bring in guest speakers like the Alzheimer's Association. We bring in physicians, lawyers, financial planners. This year, or in this, not this year, the fall of 2014, we tried to mix it up a little bit and bring in like a comedian, and you know, who talked about like getting like laughing, like laughter is the best medicine type, you know, type of thing. Sometimes we'll have our own staff speak about, like Kathy has done a speech about caregiving, and Deanna's done things about memory care. So just sort of trying to get people to come into Sage to learn, and sometimes the people that are here, that also has turned into clients because they're coming to sort of figure out what's going on, and you know, obviously they have a reason why they're coming. The exercise classes there is a charge for. Those are $8 a class, but most of the other community, the educational programs are free of charge. And we try to, you know, have a range of daytime and evening programs. Also, I'm just thinking, we've done like fall prevention classes, veterans benefits, SHIP programs. Elise will do a program, and we usually twice a year we send out flyers about the programs to our mailing list, which is, what are we, like 1,000 people? We try to get it down. It's a lot. And then so we send out flyers. We'll send out press releases and e-blasts to try to get, you know, people to come. And so that's basically community education.
Very nice.
It's very nice. Touch the feeling. You like to help.
Would you like to talk about Eldercare?
Get my notes.
Ellen knows everything about Sage.
Well, I've been here 20 years, so it's really been terrific. It's very rewarding for the most part, I can say. Everyone who I deal with is, including the staff, are very supportive when there's a lot of need out in the community. I take in calls on a daily basis. One of the important things is when a call comes in, or if there's been a message that's left, is that I answer those calls immediately. Many times I can counsel on the phone, but if the caregiver or the older adult who's caring for a spouse needs really difficult issues that they're dealing with, then I'll ask them if they want to come in and have a consultation. I don't charge anything. The program has been free right from the beginning, so I guess that's left up to the board as to whether they want to change that or not. I will also counsel them in, not only in the office, but if they can't come to the office, then I will go to the home. And more times than not, I prefer to go to the home because then you get a real insight of what the family situation is. If it's the caregiver, you know, many times I'm hoping that there'll be other members of the family, so then you can see what type of interaction goes on between the family members. Many times it's very positive, many times it's very negative. So you have to learn to deal with that. I follow up on the cases all the time. I think that's really important. If I follow up once and they seem to have been able to settle their issues, then I don't follow up again. Other cases I will follow up on, and I'll have them not only on the phone, but I'll go to the home. I can go on for 2, 3, and 5 years. It really depends upon what the family situation is. I receive calls from the police department, the fire department, the emergency squad, mainly from Summit, New Providence, Short Hills, and Milburn. And I will go out in those cases when I get them. But if they, when I read the script of the case and I'm concerned about it, then I will ask one of the officers in the police department to go with me. And a couple of times, that was really very important. And there's one case that I refused to go back on again because it would be just too dangerous for me. And the police department in that town was very happy to accept my decision and not to go back. Let's see. I make a lot of wellness calls, and I think that's really important because, as Mary Ann will agree, there are many people in their homes that really don't want to ask for services, and or they don't want to take services, but when you go and you see there's a need, then you do know that a wellness call is really important. I have the support group, the PrEP support group, which has been in operation, I think, about 25, 30 years, which is a long time. The group is really pretty incredible. Before we moved here to this building, I used to have 20 to 25 caregivers that would attend the support group, and they, as with other programs here, they would bond a very strong unit amongst themselves, and they were very supportive. I am the facilitator. I find that many times those new people that come into the group, the old members of the group have experienced the same type of issues that these caregivers are dealing with, and they really pretty much just take over the information that the new caregiver needs. I have 4 couples that will come who really are not caregivers anymore, but they will come back to the support group because they feel that they got so much out of the group amongst themselves that they really should keep coming back and supporting the new members. And I find that very rewarding. Let's see. Educational programs. Well, you mentioned the educational programs, but the PrEP support group meets once a month on Wednesday from 7 to 9, and 4 times out of the year I will bring in a speaker. I think it's really important that not only do they share amongst themselves, but they need education too. Some of the speakers have been on Medicare fraud. I have a couple of fellas from the VA, and when the meeting is over, people will say to me, well, you gotta have them back, you just gotta have them back again. And I usually get 40 to 50 people. The first time I had the VA, I had over 70 people in that room. Couldn't believe it. And they ranged from probably age 35 on up to 85 years old. I'd say most of them are in their 50s and 60s now that come to the meetings. I coordinate the AARP free tax assistance program. And last year we serviced over 150 people. It goes from the second week in February to before the 15th.
I was gonna say, middle of April, second week.
So we go to the 9th this year. So we do have about 150 to 160 people that come here into Sage, but but there's about 30 people that we cannot accommodate. So consequently, I refer them on to New Providence, which is really great, and they will take care of them too. Oh, health fairs, I forget. This is a great way to get information on Sage out into the community. And we do a health, we are invited to a health fair in Providence, and usually they get an attendance of about 150 to 200 people. CR Bard, we've been to, I think, over 10, 12 years, which is wonderful. And so all the employees there will come down to the health fair. And Kathy was with me this year, and you just kind of push all the programs, you give them all the information. And it's amazing, people do not know about Sage, and they don't know about all the resources that are out there. So I think the health fair is really much to our advantage.
And I'll add that we've been doing 2 at Morristown Memorial that we've been invited to over the last couple of years, and Ellen and I always go. And one is for the employees, the case managers and social workers. So for them to learn all about the programs is tremendous. And one of them is they have a whole day symposium for older adults to come get educational. And I think that we have all gotten clients from that one because it's a little out of our area. So, living in Morristown, in that area, they don't really know as much about Sage as if it was at Overlook. And I don't think Overlook has a health fair like that. So it's really good.
And in closing, I'd just like to talk about a couple of the clients. I'm not going to go into it deeply, but there's one fella who's 97 years old in Providence, and he refuses to leave his home. So he has hired someone from Russia. And not that he speaks the English language, but he will cook.
He's actually a really nice man, the one who helps him. Because we deliver meals, right? Yes, he's on the Meals on Wheels route. The Russian man is lovely. I've never met the client, but the Russian man is lovely.
Oh, you've never met the client. There have been some issues, but they've been able to solve them, right?
He's very responsible.
Right. There's another client that's 91 years old. I just saw her yesterday. I've been servicing her for a couple of years, and now that all the members in her family have died, she doesn't want to stay at senior housing, so she wants to move to a nursing home. I question whether she's on the borderline, but anyways, and where she wants to go is Reynolds, and I don't know if everybody knows that he or not, but Reynolds right now is closed. They don't have a license, they've been purchased by another company. So consequently, having a meeting with her yesterday, I asked Peggy Broder, who is the director of the senior program, to come with me because she's known this woman for about 25 years. And we had to convince her that she needs to stay where she is until we can find another place for her.
Excuse me, Ellen, it wasn't Reynolds a county run?
Right.
Oh,
They just got bought.
Correct.
County
When they sold it,
I mean, the county got rid of it?
Yep.
yeah.
So it's in the big flux. They're taking care of the people that are currently in the building,
Yeah.
but a lot of the employees have resigned and they haven't been able to fill all the staff positions. So they're not allowing any admission.
And I did find out yesterday, because I did a lot of research before I went to visit this woman, because I had heard that Reynolds had closed now, that the only department that's open there right now is the psych ward. Now, what has happened to the other, I haven't been able to get that information. So
It's a big
It's
loss.
like piecemeal that you get the information, but they have applied for their license, and so the Department of Health is in the process. But so it might not be open for 6 months, that we don't know.
And it's a private
Yes,
nursing
it
home
is.
operator.
Right. I service approximately 3,000 people over the year, which I think is, might be a little bit more. But there's a big need out there.
And all of our services put
When
together.
someone calls for help, how have they realized that they can call, say, to get the help they're in?
Well, now they go on the internet and they see our name. I mean, that's what's amazing.
You're the class social worker.
It's still wouldn't add up.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think they know that.
Okay, so I'm, Sage contracts with Milburn, Summit, or Milburn, Shot Hills, Summit, and New Providence. And so we get a lot of referrals.
And
from
that's
those.
through their health department or social services?
Well, I get to know the police, you know, I make a point when we first get those contracts. I make a point to get to know the police, fire department, the emergency squad, the people who run the senior centers. Also, when I have programs, I have my flyers out in the community. And I put them like in libraries, city halls, senior centers, I'm trying to think from Sterling down to, I guess Milburn, I go that far. But I make sure that these flyers are out there and then people get to know the facilities through those flyers for those programs. Like the tax program, those flyers will be going out now. And I will see to them that I place them in all these different areas that are really very important.
Ellen, can I ask, how many people come to you because of referrals of other people that you've dealt with? I mean, is that a word of mouth a significant?
A lot of it is word of mouth. And I think a lot of it is the fact that information gets out there. Like the resource guide, no matter where I go, the resource guide goes with me and it's placed everywhere. And not only one, but like we go to senior centers or city halls, or not, we always place about 10, 15 resource guides into all these places.
I think you said that in a year you may deal with 3,000 people problems. That sounds to me, that seems to indicate that that Sage can help people somehow is known or gets known when people need help. And if we were saying, do we think that we're flying under the radar? And there are a lot of people who need counseling who don't know we could give it to them. You'd say, well, the evidence doesn't suggest that.
I think what's really difficult is when people have issues, this is a percentage, it's hard for them to take the next step and go forward. There are walk-ins, and how do they know about Sage? I always ask them. They'll tell me that a neighbor has told them to come here, or, as I said, the internet, it's on the internet now. Or the police departments, they will refer them to us. And people who we have serviced in the past will also get the word out there.
It sounds like you've done a wonderful job getting the word out there that there's a certain sort of problem that Sage will help you with.
I just, in listening to you, Ellen, and I've been aware of Ellen's talents and the rest of people's talents here for so many years, it's kind of second nature. But what astounds me, though, is the number of clients per year. It's a lot. 3,000 people a year is huge. And the number of people that they're related to who you're helping and with whom you deal. And the fact that you never charge anything for your services.
Well, I refer them, I need to, excuse me, I
Yeah.
need to refer them. A lot of them, when they call on the phone, I don't just answer them.
Yeah.
I keep them on the phone, maybe for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour. I'll tell them to come in, I'm happy to consult with them. I'll refer them to the GPS program,
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels. I mean,
But
I do
my
refer
point
them
really
out.
was, we all go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York every now and then, and for years, you'd walk into this fantastic place, and they would ask, not for a charge,
For
but
donation.
for a contribution.
Yeah.
Well, I do ask
That's
for
right.
contributions.
And I was going to say, I think automatically you get a young adult person who is concerned about their parent, and you offer them an hour of your time, and you offer the resources that are just unimaginable to this person coming in. The difference you make in their lives is enormous, not just for the client, but for the families. And I think, to have some kind of a handout, anybody who's in a volunteer business, I think, you're in a church, a museum, whatever it is, a hospital, a contribution, you have no idea where that's going to go. And I think it ought to be automatic in our business. I think it ought to be automatic because people are so grateful for what you do that that's the time when their hearts are open and their minds are open to making a significant difference. And we are such a marginally operated operation. There's always a deficit at the end of the year. And, a difference of $100,000 or $120,000 or $30,000 in contributions would make all the difference in the world. I mean, basically, that's why we're in this campaign mode, is to raise enough capital so that we have a fund to help these people. So we always think about this, and some of the things that you do here are so valuable that I think people who can contribute would be more than happy to contribute if they were just given a little
Nudge. I
think
agree
Ellen
with that.
brings, I think you bring our little envelopes around
Yeah,
with you.
I mean,
She
I
does,
think-
but in terms of
Like a
those
thank you
people that we're
for-
speaking to on the phone and actually helping them, the idea then also is if you can't get something over the phone, we try to get them
Yeah.
through development and put them on our
Right.
list.
But the
and
development aspect
it's
is
different.
removed.
It's removed.
At
I
the time
agree.
when you really are
Right.
more likely to be a contributor is when you
Right, when you
realize
have that,
Or when
right.
they're in
the
under
value
stress
of the
or
service. So
Yep.
I would just say that I'm not
Now,
involved anymore, but I would think,
can I just,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. We had a not a situation, downstairs. The meals that we get, the congregate meals, are from the county through their nutritional
Yeah.
program. And during our admission, we let them know, look, this is a county-run program, so these guys are getting this. You don't have to pay for it. About, I would say 2 years ago, when the county was running low on funds, they approached us again. Hey, look, we need help with this. We sent home envelopes to our families explaining, hey, look, while you're so grateful for everything that
Yeah.
we're doing,
think
and
of us. Yeah.
they got a ton of donations,
Yeah.
and it's because they're still in that mode
Sure.
that you're talking about. While development is a good thing, you're dealing with them at crisis.
I've been involved with the hospital
Right.
all of my life, and the hospital is absolutely superb at doing that. They don't wait for a year or two. When you're in the hospital, they come around and they visit you.
They do.
That's
Right,
right.
they are.
When you wake up, that Anna Leva's card is on your table when
And
you
not
wake up.
only is it, but it's it's exactly why they're so successful, because people appreciate
Brochure
it.
about being a grateful patient.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. You're grateful and.
She's very good at her job that way.
Anyway, I didn't mean to digress, but I definitely, when I'm listening to you, Ellen, I realize
Yeah, she's great.
what you do, and everyone here, I think it's an amazing organization. That's why I wanted to be involved with it. But I also think the value, when I see the numbers, and I realize over a long period of years, we struggle. I mean, we were so lucky to get this building. The other place was falling down. We got the building, and now we're struggling just to keep the programs afloat, and that's why we're having this campaign.
Right.
But the campaign is nothing compared to the assets that people have who may be very appreciative. You just have no idea. I mean, somebody might give you $1 million who can afford to give you $1 million. because they're a grateful client. Other people can't give you 10 cents, but you just never know. And I would just think that would be a great opportunity to have some kind of envelope, some kind of something.
Right.
We're not charging for the service, but we welcome any contributions that you feel capable of making. That's it. I'm not going to preach any more about it, but I really feel that very strongly.
I want you to know that the contributions that the department used to receive was a lot more than it is now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of the economy, but there used to be people that would give me, write a check for $50 or $100 or Christmas time, but you know, that just doesn't come now. But maybe we can figure something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daria, from Home Care. So Home Care at Sage, from my understanding, Home Care is Sage's oldest program. Started in 1954, so we were 60 in September, maybe?
March 29th.
No, she didn't bring me cookies in March for our birthday.
I know.
We had a party for Home Care.
Oh, that's right, that's right. That's right.
We got cookies and balloons, but it was in the fall, so I apologize. But to me, that was our birthday. That's what I thought too. We get everybody's anniversary.
Cake, cookies, Home Care.
So, Home Care offers a myriad of services as far as the types. We offer live-in aides, meaning that an aide will live in with the client and family member 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We offer hourly services. We ask for a 4-hour minimum. However, we can do a 2-hour, especially if they are funded through VA or respite or even the county, because they only allot 6 hours. So we'll split those 6 hours up either over 3 days or over 2 days, either giving them a 3-hour stint or 2-hour stint. Sometimes we will take private pays at 2 hours, especially if they're right in this area and it fits nicely into someone's schedule. We also offer a bath service, which is just 1 hour. So you get those people who say, my mom doesn't need anybody 4 hours. I just want to make sure someone's there to make sure she gets a shower, she gets in, she gets out safely, that's it. So we will also do a bath service. The services that the girls provide or that they're able to provide, what's in their scope of practice, would be bathing, dressing, toileting, meal preparation, laundry, light housekeeping, meaning they can change linens, they can tidy up the bathroom after a shower, they can do a little sweeping or vacuuming. Gets a little sticky with the housekeeping because we get clients who live with a full household of people and they get up from the breakfast table and leave their dishes and think that they're how they're supposed to do it. As opposed to the little old 95-year-old lady who lives in an apartment by herself, who surely should not be sweeping, mopping, or dusting. So there is a fine line where housekeeping becomes a little more than just light housekeeping for that client who you know cannot do it, as opposed to the client who lives with a household full of people. Our service rates for our hourly service is $22.50 an hour for weekdays. Weekends, we increase that rate to $24.50. Oh, I forgot, we also have an overnight service, okay? So they're fine during the day because someone's home, but the caregiver either works nights or they've worked all day and now they want to sleep, but they're home with them. So we can do a 12-hour overnight where an aide will go and stay either from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., something like that, just to help them if they need assistance getting up at night to go to the bathroom, because that's usually when everybody falls, is in the middle of the night trying to go to the bathroom. So they will go and stay the night with them to help them with getting ready for bed, any needs they have in the middle of the night, maybe showering them in the morning, giving them breakfast before they leave, things like that. That service is a flat rate of $180 a night, and it goes up to $190 on the weekends. Our live-in rates are $210 a day and $220 a day on the weekend, and our bath service is $32 per bath. Okay. All of our aides are licensed through the Board of Nursing. We are accredited through CAC. The last 3 years we were accredited with distinction. However, we have not gotten our rate or scoring back from CAC just yet. We were audited back in November, but we haven't heard as of yet. Part of me is a little worried, part of me is not, because now the state of New Jersey has mandated and regulated that all agencies be accredited within the next 18 months. So they just might be inundated.
Yeah. I think that might be it.
They might be inundated with
Reviews,
surveys,
yeah.
yeah, so that might be what's holding us up. Currently, right now, I'm servicing about 77 clients, which is down from where we were. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few deaths this year. I can't help that when we're servicing the elderly. But a lot of the 77 we have, they've been with us for a long time. So I want to say we at least have longevity with our clients, which is a good thing. And I have about 50 aides. We service all of Union County. We also service part of Morris County, Somerset County, and Essex County, that which borders Union. What else can I tell you? Some of the other funding sources that we have, I know somebody had previously asked the funding sources. They're pretty much the same. We take Medicaid, we get funding from the county, respite, and VA. We also, from time to time, will subcontract with some of the larger agencies, such as Atlantic, some of the hospice agencies. Sometimes they don't have the aides to fill their cases, so they'll subcontract through us. And then that helps the family because they can bill it through Medicare. And we just bill our services to them, and therefore they reimburse us, and it helps the family with that. Sometimes we're already in on the case because we don't provide skilled care, meaning that if mom has a wound or mom has a catheter that needs to be changed, we don't do that. However, Atlantic Home Care will. So if we have a client who's on service with us who develops a bed sore, we will make a referral to, we'll call the doctor can then write a prescription for wound care, which we can then give to Atlantic. So sometimes a subcontract happens that way. It's not because Atlantic's contracting us, it's because Atlantic needs to come in to take care of the patient. And while they're getting skilled care, they are entitled to some home health aid hours. So the family gets a little bit of a relief financially by having Atlantic in there. Referral sources. Previously, it was just really in-house. I have to say they may start with Meals on Wheels, then they wind up in daycare, then they're no longer appropriate for daycare, so they come to us. Sometimes they're still appropriate for daycare, but they need somebody to help them getting dressed in the morning and help them get off the bus in the afternoon. So we'll do that. Every client that I have on service, somehow or another, has probably touched somebody else in this building before they came to me. Kathy has actually been a great help because generally when we get a referral for someone who's just calling in from outside, they maybe just lived in the area or had a friend, or lately I've been getting referrals from doctor's office. I get a snippet of what they really need. They'll call up and say, my mom lives in this town. She needs an aide to come 3 days a week to make her meals, and that's all the information I get. So when I go into the home, a lot of times I'm going in there blind, and they may need some other resources, so that I have to come back and try and help with that. But when I get them for Kathy, I get this great big picture of who they are, what they need, and just about everything is in place. So it's nice. I like when I get those. So I appreciate, the other services that we have, because we do all somehow work hand in hand. Ellen had mentioned a client. She didn't give any names, but she mentioned a woman who lives in a senior building who wants to go to Reynolds. She is also a home care client. And Ellen didn't go into a lot of detail about her, but we've had her on service for quite a while. Actually, we started with her husband. Her husband was our client first. He was actually a VA client, and he was on dialysis. And the VA couldn't provide him an aide on the day that he had dialysis, and he needed someone to get him ready for dialysis. So in comes Sage. Well, in the process, she fell, she fractured her wrist. Guess what? Now she became a client of Sage. Unfortunately, this has probably been the worst year for her. She lost her husband. She lost her son. She lost her daughter-in-law, which was the son's wife. She lost a niece. She lost a neighbor. She just...
And the daughter has grandkids.
And her other daughter in Florida, exactly. And it's just, I can't even, I don't even have words.
91.
She's 91. So she was originally only receiving home care services. Well, she fell into this black hole of despair. And someone else asked if there's not any county funding, if Sage helps with funding. We do have a care fund. She was already getting 6 hours from us. That's not enough. She had no one, absolutely no one. So we dipped into care fund. We made sure she had 5 days a week. We sent Ellen out to help with counseling because she's really in like a state of despair. We got Mary Ann to deliver Meals on Wheels. So we really did all try and pitch in because she...
We were trying to get her in spending area.
Yeah, and she's very vain. She's very vain. She wants no one to see her in a wheelchair or where she is. No, so she's really cut off socialization-wise. She's just very much so isolated. So we truly are the only people. We are her family. So just to give you an idea of how much we all try and pitch in to help, people who really need it. So that concludes, I think, pretty much what I have to say about home care. Any questions?
You like what you're doing?
Can you tell?
I'm just kidding.
She's a great clinician, excellent too, by the way, besides a director.
And I'll tell you just a quick funny story. When I went into nursing, actually I never thought I would be a nurse. My mom's a nurse, my grandmother was a nurse, so I came from a long line of nurses. And my mother wanted me to be a nurse, and I said, I can't deal with the old people and the blood. So my mother tried to sell me. She told me I had to be in a job where I could socialize because I was a social butterfly.
No.
No. Right, no. So she sold me on the beauty of nursing, on pediatrics and labor and delivery and travel nursing and things like that. So I went in thinking that I was going to be a pediatric nurse. Let me tell you, my first clinical rotation in peds, I knew right then and there. Here you are. And I wound up exactly where I said I was not going to be, is with my old people. But they became my babies. That's who needs the help. Pediatrics, they have their parents. They have such a support system already. It's the elders who really need the help, and they have so much to share with you anyway that so they're my babies. So yes, I love what I do. You're welcome.
And I'm Kathy, and I came 3 years ago, and actually when this program started, the program before was called EPG, and they changed it to Guidance Planning and Support. So it's a little navigating machine, and I'm the nurse navigator. And it's very interesting. No 2 days are the same. I get referral sources from all over, a lot from doctors' offices, previous clients, board members, people in the community have just heard about this program. So I get a wide range of referrals. And it is a fee for service. It's $500. And what I do is I try to go to the home if they're in their home and do a physical, cognitive, social, a full assessment, home safety, and I go through everything. It takes about 2.5 hours, and if they have family, they usually are there. And within a couple of days, I'm like the resource nurse. I make all my recommendations of plans, so whether it's Meals on Wheels, daycare, home care, but I go beyond that. So it's not just for Sage referrals, I have to have all the community referrals. So whether it be means of transportation, some people really only want meals that are delivered to the home. I found a meal company, Mom's Meals, and they like that. There's also a restaurant in Summit that's delivering to some of our clients daily. So my job is to go beyond and give all the resources. Lawyers is a big thing. A lot of people don't have the proper wills, powers of attorney, never did estate planning. So I do a lot of community events. I go to a lot of outreach things to meet all these people to get the right referral sources. And I have to say, in return for me giving these referral sources, a lot of the companies have given back to Sage and have sponsored us. They've given checks, large donations to the funds for the referrals that I'm giving them. So even though it's outside Sage, they're still giving back to us. I also, if people are in rehab, I try to transition them home. So I get a lot of referrals from a lot of the rehabs in the area. But I also send people to rehabs from the hospital. So the hospital social workers do call me when they get complicated cases. and asked me to step in. So if they're there, I try to meet them at the hospital and somehow get into their home so that I have everything done before they get home, and they have all their grab bars in and whatever they need, and they've met their caregiver and they have their meals lined up. So, but I had a case, a lady called that she really wanted to move to assisted living, so I met with her. I had everything set up for her to go to the assisted livings on a Monday, and I said, in the meantime, I think you should get the medical alert so that you're safe. And she said, oh no, it's only going to be a week or two. And I said, I think you need meals, and she said yes. And the long and short of it was, they delivered a meal on a Thursday. She must have fallen right after. And Friday, Meals on Wheels came, and she had been on the floor for 24 hours. And she wound up at Overlook. And now she's at rehab. She really doesn't have any family. She has a sister that lives in Massachusetts with Parkinson's. So the poor thing gets to rehab, and she's like, Kathy, I brought my purse to the hospital, and I have a lot of money in my purse. So, this old lady. And I'm like, no. I said, what's a lot of money? She said, well, over $2,000 in cash.
Oh my God.
What?
I said, please, I don't really think so. So the long and short of it must have taken me at least 8 hours of work of, calling the hospital. Of course, they say they don't have it. Then calling the rescue squad, and they're like, oh, I remember that gold pocketbook went with her. And I talked to the guy. So I physically had to go to the hospital and find the nursing supervisor. We scanned her records, and for sure she had her pocketbook with all her cards. And a couple hours later, and I have worked at the hospital for over 30 years, so they all know me. So I'm rummaging through every floor that she was on, and I can't find this pocketbook. And the cashiers, security has a building off-site, and they go there and they come back with this pocketbook, with the gold pocketbook. And I said, that's fine, I'm taking the pocketbook. I said, but can you please open the pocketbook? Because she's telling me she has all this money, and I would feel really bad if I got there and the money wasn't in there. So anyway, she did have $1,644 in that pocketbook. Wow. So, that pocketbook would have sat in security. So you never know, this was going to be a very easy case. I was going to show her assisted living, clean out her house, and move her. And it winds up, I'll probably have her for a very long time, and transitioning her it's in the safe at King James.
I know she can pay for it.
Say, you just can't get this kind of service anywhere else. It's crazy. The way everyone goes beyond and spends so much time.
Yesterday I was moving somebody from one facility to another after 100 days, so I was so excited, and his whole life fell apart. The people that were supposed to help him, one family member was in the ER, the other guy never showed up. So I literally went there, and he's an Amazon, nut. And he must have bought 5 computers. He was the chief engineer for Fox 5 News. He had every kind of equipment, and I literally had to pack his room in an hour and personally drive it to his next facility and unpack it all. So you don't know. I went there 3 months ago thinking I was going to get him a little home care, and I was going to get him some meals, and I would be all done, and you just never know. So, and I did a project with Summit Medical Group over the last year, and it was called CPCI, Medicare patients. So I worked very closely, the case managers in those offices picked high-risk patients, and then would call them into me, and then I would go out and do my program with them. And then the doctors would get all the feedback of all the things that they were doing. And it definitely prevented rehospitalization, hospitalization, and quality of care for the caregivers and for themselves. So the results were very good from that. So.
I have a general question, and I'm not sure if it's just you or everybody. What's the relationship between Overlook and Sage?
That's a loaded question. Overlook and Sage.
Well, what's the relationship?
I have a wonderful relationship.
I have a great relationship too.
It's not formalized. I think that's the.
There's no formal relationship. Obviously, we're getting grants from Overlook to do some of our programs here. We are trying to coordinate with the Vitality program at this point to do combined programs. We did dementia care.
And the Healing Arts program.
And the Healing Arts program. So we have various programs here and there, and I'm sure we're getting referrals. But if there's a formalized, larger program, we're not there yet.
I think Overlook uses us more than we are able to use them.
Do they refer discharge patients?
That's
Maybe you or?
what we're trying to.
We had tried a few
They
years
have
ago, was
Atlantic.
it when you,
Well,
Yeah.
They've got Atlantic.
Well, I'll tell you what a little bit of the
That's the
problem
problem.
is.
Yeah.
They have Atlantic rehab.
When they are discharging, because, well, it depends on what they're discharging for. If they need rehab, they're gonna send them to a facility, but sometimes they have that one who wants to go home, but they know that it's not safe for them to go home alone. They don't need rehab, they just kinda need that oversight. But the problem is, when they call, they usually call at the last minute. Their discharge planning isn't done, I wanna say more in advance of where it should be. It's very tentative. So even at home care, we'll get a call at 3:55. I have a lady being discharged at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
I just wanna.
I would, and
Let
you
me
know, a
ask
lot
you
of
a
times
question
we'll say,
related to that. Medicare approved. We are not, and we're not a Medicare approved agency.
Because
So
we're not
funding,
skilled.
Why, over all these years, why haven't we got that figured out? You know,
We have
what's
to be
the
a
hang up?
skilled
Because
facility.
reimbursements are really tied to that. We can't get reimbursements here.
We have to be a skilled
Skilled
facility, I
facility.
believe we have to have, I want to check on this, but a physician on hand as well.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Here you are. I'll get the contract.
You asked the question, you got the job.
Is that right? Is that a hang
So,
up?
yeah, for Medicare
We have to be
reimbursement,
providing,
to get Medicare
more nursing
reimbursement,
care.
a physician has to make a home visit
Right.
and do an attestation
Attestation.
periodically. There also needs to be a skilled nurse in there. To get home care, you have to have a skilled nurse providing, I'm sorry, not a skilled nurse, all your nurses are skilled. You have to have a nurse providing skilled care,
Yeah,
and that nurse can order the attendant,
yeah.
the aide.
I'm
But
not
I
sure.
would think those issues would be very easily solved.
But Medicare also doesn't cover like adult day programs. So
Right.
even if you're Medicare,
No, but the nursing care.
but the nursing
certainly.
And the
Right, but only
reimbursement is
for X
extremely
amount.
high,
I'm
each
just-
visit's like
Relative
$190
to other
per nurse.
reimbursements, it's a completely different ballgame.
right,
And we
right.
used to talk about this 10 years ago or
And we
more.
still talk.
Yep.
And I would think by this time that has been resolved, because it's a huge issue. And it's
It is a question in my mind as well, in terms of trying to look into that. I don't,
have a
I'm
physician
curious to
tied
find out.
out to say.
It also
I would
opens
think
us up
that
to all
something
this other
easily resolved,
stuff
and it
besides
certainly affects
liability.
the skilled and
You know, we have
professional nursing, so
like, we have to get
I would
people to
think
come and provide that type of care.
that would help a lot.
We have to pay that.
I
for
do.
it.
I want to say one other thing about the
Yeah,
overlook
reimbursement's crazy.
relationship that is interesting. Because there's so, I mean, as you know, there's so many departments in Overlook. So we actually have a really great relationship with their community education, and we do programs, like for example, we've partnered with them for the past couple of years on our memory screening program, where we do it together. A couple of years ago with the neuroscience department, we wrote a very big grant to try to get the GPS program to be in Overlook, where all of their patients who were going to, for the neuroscience would go, and then they would be able to get GPS. And we unfortunately didn't get the grant. And then I don't 100% remember what happened, but for some reason it was very difficult, as we said, to get the discharge planners, the social workers on, you know, to give us that information because of HIPAA and everything else to get direct referrals. But we had tried really hard with Dr. Curlin and Dr. Elkins to get this big grant to make GPS, sort of like what we did with Summit Medical Group,
Right.
to do it with Overlook. Do you remember? I mean, it wasn't that long
So
ago.
we get more referrals from the rehab.
I remember
Because a lot of
the
patients
rehab.
go to
It's a
the
big,
rehab,
big
so then
thing.
the next step to get
Right.
home is where I get the referrals from. But a lot of the case managers and social workers happen to know both of us pretty well from working at the hospital. So I have to say that's definitely been in my benefit, because they refer to me because they remember me. I just did the head nurse for the 4th floor had a problem with her uncle. And all the girls were like, oh, you gotta call Kathy, you gotta call Kathy. So I remembered her from like 25 years ago working at the hospital. So our name is out there for doing
Great to be
these
a
things,
preferred
but it
provider,
would be
though.
better to be
It would be great to be
more
able to-
concrete. I would love to do something in the ER.
Right.
I've been talking to the social workers in the ER, but getting it to the next step is
That
what
was
is
also bad.
very difficult.
That'd be a great idea.
Also, one of the issues at Overlook is that social work is very fragmented there.
Right.
So there's
Right.
not one department that
Right.
handles all of discharge for everyone. Some are handled by departments, some are handled by social work, some are in discharge planning.
Then people have their preferences.
I've had a couple of clients that had gone in for same-day surgery, and their surgery was supposed to take place like at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. And because of emergency cases that had come in, they were not operated on until 4 or 5 o'clock at night. And so they said that they would get in touch with me when they were going to be discharged. Well, a few of them were being discharged at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. These are people that are in their mid-80s or early 90s. And so I'm rather brazen. And I just told them that if I take this patient home, that they're going to be responsible. And of course, immediately they get very upset and they say, just wait a minute, and they will go to, I don't know who they go to in the hospital.
And then they get extended recovery and they stay the night,
Right,
right?
right, of course, that's what they need.
But the other thing is that
Thank
we
you.
work with a population of clients that's very specific, whereas the hospital is,
Yes,
they
true.
take care of everybody.
Yes.
How do we find our niche with that being so specific?
That was my neuroscience.
And how do we, transplant that now into the hospital? Because they struggle with taking care of the clients that we take care of. It's, I mean, you guys know, when our clients go to the hospital, it's like,
It's a
oh, okay.
disaster.
So I don't know where I was going
Well, they're
with that.
getting
That's why
nurses,
the neuroscience-
nurses
Yeah.
to take care of the
They
dementia
struggle with that.
clients in
That's
these
why
yards.
neuroscience was so
So that might
important.
be a good avenue, because that would be a different person.
Yeah, so much of that is changing in terms of the internal
Right.
workings and how these types of clients are being handled. So
On
they're trying
video.
to pull it together, they're just not there yet.
Also, I just wanted to say, a lot of the clients that I service, I hook them up with their medical alert. So we get it through Life Station. It's a lot cheaper than most other places, and I do install it for them. And then I do follow up with them for at least a month, usually 3 months. And then I have ongoing clients where I do medication management every other week. Or I go visit for lawyers a lot that they have no family. I'll go visit them once a month or once every couple of weeks just to make sure medically everything's okay and that the facility or the home care person is doing what they're supposed to do. So my job varies so much every day depending.
at all or any?
Yeah.
It's $500 for the assessment.
Okay.
And we do have a care fund. Summit Medical Group, those patients that were given to me by them,
They paid us the cost, 500 is definitely below cost, what it
Right.
takes to run the program. I just want to reiterate something that Kathy said. She does a 1 month follow-up and then a 3 month follow-up. You won't get that anywhere else.
No.
It's not something that you really have that kind of follow-up.
and it's all in the computer and we follow the data. Diane is a tremendous help in putting all of that in.
Is the program continuing with the medical group, or is that over?
That's done, that was a 1-year
Oh, I
program.
was, I thought it was.
Yeah, that was a 1-year program. We are in talks with them to try to keep the relationship going. We just had some people over this week. They're starting their own social work program that they're trying to do some of this type of work as well a little bit, but they're certainly referring people to Kathy as well.
Just not the volume.
Yeah.
It's not the
Well,
volume
you know,
figure, but
they
we'll
just,
see.
they just,
We'll see.
I think, have reached close to 500 affiliated
They did.
physicians.
Right.
Yeah.
I did, wow.
And it is expanding and expanding and expanding. I would think that we should have a really formal affiliation. I think that should be something that should be.
Yeah,
formal.
they're in, their geriatrics department is also, as I was saying, is in transition, and
Yeah.
they're growing exponentially. I think it's a little bit difficult for them at this point trying, but we're trying to keep them in here, working
Sure.
with the geriatricians, and hopefully that will eventually transform into something more formal. I mean, I think they have 300,000 patients in their database.
They hired 3 social workers, so I think that they're trying to encompass them and give them as much as they can. But already in the last couple of weeks, as they're opening the social work program to more and more doctors, they're getting more and more overwhelmed. So I'm already seeing her starting to say, can you go do this case? But it is all fee for service at that point. Before it was, can you go do this case, and Medicare was paying for it. So now they have to make sure that the person's able to afford the $500 as well. So that's a little extra step. But Atlantic has the ACO too. So I think that might be, because that's all telephonic. And I'm thinking, I know a few of the girls, they've given me a few cases, but their cases are the most difficult of the difficult, and it seems like nobody had any funds at all. to go do those cases for them. So, you know, that's something we have to look into too, if they can get this Medicare program like the medical group did.
Yeah.
So, and then they could have the nurse going out.
Carol, I'm gonna have to leave.
Sorry. We're running.
No, we're covered all but one. You've been very, very useful.
Yeah.
Very
Great, very good.
good. Sorry, I
Did you
have
take one? Okay, great.
I just want to interject something, see you later, that I think is important for all of us to know. That, you know, we all know about the federal poverty level, but there's something called the New Jersey Economic Security Index, where I believe it's a foundation called the New Jersey Foundation on Aging did a really thorough look at how much it costs for older people to live in New Jersey. And so I kind of go by what they say, depending on if you're single or married, you own your home, you rent, and that's how I classify Meals on Wheels clients. I think Meals on Wheels clients are kind of, you know, across the board, they are our clients. And 40% of people who get Meals on Wheels are below the New Jersey Economic Security Index. It's a much more reasonable way to look at people living in New Jersey. So although we live in a relatively affluent area, we've got to think of that, the taxes and everything. So when we're asking people for money, these guys don't, they don't have money. So just throwing that out there.
Well, let's just take a couple minutes on SHIP and then,
Yeah,
I mean, we're bumping
Real
up
quick,
against
SHIP.
it.
I'll be really, really quick. 2 seconds. We're a little bit different also because we're funded by the Department of Human Services in Trenton. We're trained by Trenton as well as funded. It comes through the county, but it is funded separately. And that includes, well, my salary, I'm only 14 hours a week. It also includes a small advertising budget and other expenses.
Spanish.
And my Spanish translator. We last year saw about 2,500, counseled about 2,500 clients. That includes, well, so what we do is we will help any Medicare beneficiary or their family with any questions related to Medicare. So it can be someone who's new to Medicare and has questions about what they pick from the alphabet soup of options that they have available. It might be help with a specific claim with a provider who they paid and now they can't get reimbursed. And we do a lot of low-income subsidies, helping them apply for low-income subsidies that are available through, some are through the state and some are federal. Our busiest time is obviously the fall during open enrollment. Our counselors work very, very hard during open enrollment. We're not quite as busy the rest of the year. I have about 15 counselors who are volunteers and work either from home or they come to Sage, and we're trying to encourage more counselors to work here, so there's more of a presence, and we're getting people into the building. Obviously, a lot of people aren't able to come here because we serve a large low-income population. A lot of people don't have access. We also work at Senior Council in Union, which is right on a bus route from Elizabeth, and that's more accessible for some people. In addition to the 15 counselors, the volunteer counselors who we have, we also have about 15 counselors who are employees of either the county, City of Elizabeth. They're working in senior housing. They're working in senior centers, and I support those counselors. I supervise them, and they're trained through us. What else? I'm trying to be really quick. SHIP services are offered throughout the state. Many of them are actually housed in the Division of Aging, and most of their referrals come from Division of Aging. We don't get very many from them. Most of our referrals come from Medicare, from other departments here, as well as from advertising. I do outreach. I also do health fairs as well. I do presentations in libraries, churches and synagogues, senior centers. I went really fast. I think I covered basically what we do.
Thank you.
So are your expenses covered by the state? Yes.
Yeah.
you,
Impressive
everyone.
group.
Thanks so much, everybody.